All right, here we go. We are looking into the full moon in Capricorn arriving on July the 10th. And as you noticed by the title of this video, I am going to call this a death of the ego, and I'm going to explain all of this and more, what to expect. If you are interested in even skipping ahead or watching this later, closer to the full moon, I am leaving some reflection points for you to look at during the full moon if it resonates with you. But first, I'm going to go into exploring numerology and what made me feel that this could possibly be a very powerful time to address our patterns, maybe aspects of our ego for deep, profound transformation and release. Of course, moving into Leo season, which is also part of this. So going into numerology, we do have a universal month number 7. I already highlighted it in the weekly forecast. The universal month 7 is the truth seeker. It allows us to go deeper within ourselves. It allows us to analyze and go down the rabbit holes of the mysteries of life, even within ourselves, even all aspects of humanity, of living. The 9, as we are in a universal year 9, is a year, of course, and you probably already know this, of endings, of transmutation, of enlightenment, of purging, and the mastering the art of non-attachment. Now, 7 and 9 together, of course, equals 16, which does give us a karmic debt number 16, the fall of the ego. That is a little bit of a background energy for this month, but that does play a part in the story of bringing this all together as far as what I feel this full moon might be offering us. Now, yesterday, I already did make an attempt to record this video. I had a pile of notes, which I still have some. I had to get my video done according to my timeline. I had to get a video done yesterday because I have other videos in the back burner that I want to get to. And yesterday was my day for recording videos. I had time set aside. I had my structure. I had my plan, and it was go. I turned the camera on, and all of a sudden my words just did not flow. And they didn't flow in the sense even close to what I prefer, like even right now. It was choppy. I didn't like the delivery. I was looking too much into my notes to make sure I covered every single detail and I had the structure on point. And I started getting so frustrated. I got angry. I was a bit upset that I invested all this time in my day to record videos and I couldn't even record one video. I caught what I was doing, how I was feeling. I shut down my laptop and I went outside for a walk in nature. During my time in nature, I had all these downloads and ideas, and everything came together for this particular video and for this story because I was in nature, I was relaxed, I was processing, and I was just being. I was letting go of the control and needing to have things done at a certain time on my certain level of expectations and what I had set up and structured for my day. As soon as I let go, I spent some time in nature, I had all these ideas flooding in, and I saw the bigger picture of this full moon. And that is the polarization of what we are in right now. The mother archetype of Cancer, which is about nurturing, self-care, inner safety, inner attunement, intuition, dialing in. Capricorn, on the other hand, is the father archetype. It is the yang. It is the polarization. We are in the purest form of the mother and father archetypal polarities, if you will. And Capricorn is all about achieving. Now, when we are reaching now the later portion of the zodiac calendar, Capricorn, then Aquarius, then Pisces, which I'll also get to in a moment, we are going into the process of evolution, transcendence. This is the final ascent towards transcendence, towards self-actualization, to a peak within our reality, within ourselves. When we arrive at Capricorn, Capricorn takes what Sagittarius brought to the foreground regarding expansion, big ideas, bigger understanding, greater sense of self, because the full moon in Sagittarius was very expansive. We also had Jupiter moving into Cancer, so we had that crossover between the ruling planets and their zodiac signs, between Cancer and Sagittarius. So there was a very strong theme around expansion during that time. Now, that expansive energy can push us beyond our comfort limits. It can bring up triggers. It can bring up almost unconscious, subconscious responses of holding back, of limiting ourselves. That's what the full moon allowed for us to see within ourselves, of where we hold ourselves back, where we limit ourselves, where we second guess ourselves, and how we can become more of ourselves. How can we become more attuned with our truth? How can we be more open to express and to experience life? How could we be more open to learning something of a greater, higher level magnitude? And then we move into this Capricornian energy where we have this moment to address the logical, more structured ability to take that bigger, expansive experience into practical form, to ground it, to mature it, to make sure that it has legs, roots to stand on, to grow into, and to evolve into something greater. And so Capricorn takes that big, expansive experience and ideas into something more practical and grounded that has structure, that has a bit of a roadmap, strategy. And then moving into the Aquarius will be the handover to the ability to evolve it into something of a greater idea or innovative solution or innovative project or conquest, but also allow us to connect with our uniqueness and this sense of community, bringing the rooted, grounded, stable, structured process that Capricorn has created into a greater, bigger picture, something for mankind, something for humanity, while honoring our own transformational process of becoming more empowered with our unique self, with being different, with having new ideas, with being a pioneer maybe. Capricorn also does have a very strong relationship with legacy. So the legacy that we want to invest into for creating positive change in this world, something lasting, something that will create a big impact maybe in people's lives or in humanity on some kind of scale. So when we move into finally Pisces full moon, and that will be in September, that is also in a 9-9 month, meaning it is a universal month. Number 9, as a 9-9 month, 3 nines, universal month number 9, the 9th month, and also the universal year 9, while also the final full moon in Pisces arriving at that time. That moment is going to be the climax, the pinnacle of some massive transformation, a very, very, very strong ending, purging, releasing, awakening. Is going to be very powerful because we also have the North Node in Pisces. Now, this is where I'm going with this whole story. This is what tied it all together, is not only where we've been most recently, where we are currently moving into this full moon, but where we're going with it afterwards as well. Even though the full moons are more about illumination, more about purging and releasing and doing deeper inner work, we can still see this progress of where this deeper work is taking us, because it is going to end with a bang. The reason why I call this death of the ego, it is, of course, not the death of the ego, because we can go through many, many, many experiences of chipping away, of integrating our ego, understanding how our ego is interrupting our life experiences, our ability to evolve, our ability to find flow and trust with life, etc. It is because of the 16-7 aspect that we have to work with for the entire month. It also has to do with going into Leo season and the new moon in Cancer, where I did touch on how our ego first develops based on our maternal or emotional experiences from the womb onwards. So the stories that we start to develop about ourselves, the needs maybe that weren't met, the maybe energetic difficulties that we carry within ourselves and that we, again, form a story with, maybe levels of protection that we embody within ourselves unknowingly, that does form part of our ego, because our ego can be formed as a mode of protection. So all of these different components that form our deeper stories and start to form our wounded ego, if you will, the unacknowledged or unintegrated ego, will then be carried forward to Leo season, which I mentioned, where we get to express outward. We get to express outward based on the relationship with our unacknowledged or unintegrated ego or our authentic self. Now, this full moon is smack dab in the middle of it. Is smack dab in the middle of the Cancer new moon, and then which will be the Leo new moon after the full moon in Capricorn. And this full moon also has a very strong relationship, because of being in Capricorn, of our relationship with identity pertaining to self-worth, pertaining to our ability for creating success and legacy and wealth and status in the outer environment. And when that is in question, our ego can become very destructive with regards to what has been formed around our status, around our material possessions, what we have built, what we have created, or what we want to build and create, the story that we want to see happen in our life, what we hold on to so strongly of a certain level of success, maybe having a certain level of financial status or financial wealth, being able to live a certain lifestyle, etc. All these external factors that are important for us to look at. But when it is part of our unchecked ego or our unchecked shadow aspects, it can be a dominating factor where we become very controlling. We become very locked in with what we want in our life, and we tend to not budge on that story and on the also persona that can be reflective of the deeper driving mechanisms that are creating the story that we are wanting to build or the path that we want to control. So some of the more shadowy aspects within this archetype can create a level of control if we're not feeling that our results are being met or that we're not able to create the results that we want. So in this dynamic of Cancer and Capricorn, we have Cancer with regards to sense of safety, sense of nurturing within our inner child self, within even our mother self, the sensitive aspects within. And then Capricorn has a sense of safety and belonging with regards to the outer world, with regards to status, with regards to accomplishments, and with regards to what one is building in the material realm. Saturn, being the ruling planet of Capricorn, does demand structure. It also is responsible for time, and it is also responsible for the lessons that we need to learn through dedicating ourselves to refinement. Now, the refinement comes from hard work, it comes through dedication, it comes through performance. And if any of those areas are not in check, we can find ourselves dealing with the consequences and repercussions of what we have not brought into more structure and more discipline. But like I said, on the shadow aspect, when we are driving too hard to create a legacy, to control our outcomes, to control others, to control our life, to control ourselves, or even be really hard on ourselves or be shame-inducing towards others or even towards ourselves, then we are clamping down on the flow and the trust of life. And therefore, our ego has a very strong role that it's playing within our life experience. Also, on the flip side, regarding Cancer and Capricorn, Cancer, of course, being the nurturer, connecting with the emotional self, connecting with the softer side. Capricorn in the shadow may be distant from emotions, opting to push away emotions altogether and opting for work and performance and results. So in essence, Cancer would be reflecting inward to reflect, where do I come from? How do I feel? And who nurtured me? Capricorn, on the other hand, would be, where am I going? What am I building? And who do I answer to? Capricorn, being of the masculine archetype within ourself, would be more external. Cancer, reflecting the feminine archetype within ourself, would be more internal. Now, because we are in the axis of family regarding the mother and father archetype, this full moon is offering a very profound opportunity to understand where our performance patterns may have come from. Maybe patterns of lack or scarcity, or even patterns regarding work and performance and career and success. So this can come from a higher polarity experience, or it can come from a lower polarity experience where perhaps there were family patterns where one particular family member or both were very driven, hardworking, and maybe neglecting some of the emotional needs of the family. Or maybe there was a lot of pressure on finances and results and even status, material wealth, and position and prestige within the material and 3D realm, if you will. There also could be a pattern of fear regarding what if I don't perform, what might happen? What if I don't have enough money? What might happen? Again, maybe even keeping up to the Joneses, as is called, right? So there can be some of the family patterns that you can highlight during the full moon to illuminate some of the structures within yourself, perhaps, of what has been passed down and how to release them through identifying the patterns, integrating them, and switching the patterns into something more constructive, something more of flow and trust. And also, I want to add in a sense of safety, and trust is going to be a big one, something that I have recognized within myself, and I also have worked on with many other people. I feel it's very universal, this notion and feeling of trust within ourselves, with the flow of life, with the universe, and how we can bring in this Capricorn energy, the strategic mind, the hardworking, the discipline, the structure, being prompt, being accurate, bringing something to life in the material realm, while with Cancer, allowing for flow and trust, fluidity, and nurturing ourselves, nurturing the process from a place of non-forcing, but from a place of being, from a place of flow. And again, that trust, I feel, is going to be a big factor. So you might want to spend some time around the full moon and connect with maybe what trust means for you. If you trust the future, the unknown, if you trust yourself with the results that you want to create, if there is an imbalance with regards to emotions, do you trust emotions, or do you hold people at bay and push emotions away because they're a little bit uncomfortable? I'm going to go into the reflections now so you can go a little bit deeper with this for your full moon ritual. The first one is going to be, where am I over functioning and trying to prove my worth through achievement? So like I said, where could you maybe be pushing too hard? And if you are noticing when you push, if there is a lack of result or a lack of fluidity, sometimes what I have found also is when I'm pushing really hard and things aren't working, I get really upset. Like I said yesterday, even when I was recording this video and it wasn't working out the way I was hoping, I did get very angry. I got upset. I had to watch myself, closed my laptop down, went for a walk, everything changed. Usually what I find at the foundation, the foundational belief behind our need to push really hard, can be an aspect of trying to prove ourselves, but underneath that is going to be a false belief of I am not enough. And that false belief can drive us so hard to work extra hard, to push when we shouldn't even be pushing. So again, it's going to require a very subtle approach to understand the push versus flow and trust. The next one is, what inherited beliefs about success, responsibility, or emotion am I ready to release? Again, this is going to require going back into your family patterns. What have you inherited as far as stories, beliefs, behavioral patterns around success, emotions, status, wealth, legacy, even public image. So you can look at many different aspects of family conditioning, patterning that may help you identify some of the patterns that you might be experiencing currently. The next is, in what ways do I withhold tenderness, thinking it makes me strong? Right. So this is very common in our modern society. I talk about it often. Our emotions are one of our most powerful traits that we have within ourselves, but we are literally taught not to feel because emotions can bring up, well, for one, memories that caused pain and hurt and discomfort, but also we could have in our early life, in our formative experience, run into difficulties when we expressed our emotions, when we maybe felt tender and it wasn't met in the same way, or we expressed our emotions and we got punished. So many different dynamics could have happened in our formative years, or even in society, even with our peers and again, other caregivers. And this builds up a suppression of our emotions and a very strong resilience to working through emotions in order to stay strong, in order to be tough, in order to override what we would feel to be weaknesses when our emotions arise, when we feel like crying, or we feel like speaking from our heart and being tender, or being romantic, or being soft. This is commonly based on society. We can be conditioned in some cases to feel that our emotions make us weak, when in fact our emotions are incredibly, incredibly powerful. The next one is, what legacy or long-term vision truly aligns with my soul, not just societal approval? If you are working towards a certain goal, if you are wanting to create a certain lifestyle, if you're wanting to build a business, if you are wanting to leave a legacy, does it align with who you truly are? Does it feel in alignment with your heart, with your soul? Or is there part of the story that it has been formed based on maybe family expectations or societal pressures? And then finally, the last one is, can I redefine success to include rest, softness, and emotional connection? All right, this is the true polarization of Capricorn and Cancer. Can you still achieve what you want in restful state? Well, the balance of both, in all honesty. I remember back in the days when I was a competitive high-level cyclist, I thought at first when I started racing, when I started cycling, I thought that I always had to be on, pushing hard, training hard. Yet when I worked with a professional coach, I then found that rest is as equally as important as performance. So resting was a form of performance. It actually was more of a passive form, but it did contribute to my overall picture of where I was going and my results. So we do need to rest, and resting can feel very uncomfortable. So if you rest, do you feel uncomfortable? Do you feel guilty? Do you feel that your thoughts are still running and you're thinking about what needs to get done, what isn't happening, maybe fearful of the future, maybe trying to connect the dots in some kind of way of what you should do when you are finally out of your rest state? If you find yourself in that mode, turn it off and allow yourself to relax and allow yourself to trust. And that's going to come down to how much do you trust yourself, the universe, nurturing yourself and trying a different way of functioning. It does take quite a while to understand. This has been one of the greater feats that I have had to undergo myself. But the more I exercise this, the better my work becomes, the more at peace I become, and the more I learn through the process. When we're used to operating a certain way, we're not really learning about ourselves. We're not expanding our boundaries. We're not testing ourselves in a different domain. And we're also not allowing ourselves to become more whole and seen. So when we are operating on our one cylinder, or maybe a couple cylinders of performance and work and duty and responsibility, we're not allowing ourselves to see more of ourselves and to experience more of life itself. All right, so that is it. That is all for this full moon. It is going to be quite a big one, I feel. If you are looking for a little bit more guidance and assistance, there is going to be a full moon ritual over at the Shadow Project. If you would like to join, there is a 7-day free trial where you can test it out and see if it's a fit for you. Otherwise, I'm wishing you all the best during this beautiful full moon and beyond. Take care.